And let's start with the details by going to Parliament. And Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says there will be no suspension of the flat rate scheme as is being demanded by the minority and some business associations. After a meeting with Parliament's Finance Committee today, he disclosed that there will be only further engagements to clear up all misunderstandings. The committee met the minister after the Association of Ghana Industries and sister organizations petitioned it, seeking a reverse of the 3% VAT rate scheme. Mr. Ofori-Atta spoke after the meeting.
I think there's a much better understanding of what we are doing. I think the huge issue was the supposed cascading effect of the 3%. And truly, in our view, the 17.5% also had a cascading effect. And so this is a much lower level, which also is deductible from their income tax proceeds. So we feel that we are in good stead. I think there are some issues of importers that we are trying to resolve. So we'll have some more meetings on Monday. And I think it's an issue of explanation more so than the possibility of escalating costs.
So the issue of the importers, the minority, for example, says it's outside the law. The law did not capture them as people who should benefit from the 3% tax rate. Right. But you've acted outside the law and allowed for that to happen.
No, I don't. Well, that's a view, and we don't think that there's any illegality. But since an honourable member of Parliament, Rankin, has said it, we will look at it again. But we are very sure that we are within the law in the actions that we have taken.
Part of the concern that AGI, for example, is raising that this could result in increment in prices because of...
That's true. We had a good meeting of them this morning before even meeting here, and I think there's certainly a wavering that may not be the situation.
If it's true, well, then it's problematic, right? Because this is supposed to rather benefit.
If it is true, but it's a huge if that you are saying. But we don't think it is true because we think when you talk about cascading on 17.5, 3% is much less than that. But more importantly, now the 3% also becomes part of your cost, which means that in computing your taxes, it becomes something that you can deduct from it.
But the major concern has been that sometimes getting the refund becomes a problem, which is how come some of them, for example, think that
this one now becomes part of your normal cost of doing business, and therefore you deduct it when you are doing your taxes.
You spoke of subsequent meetings. That means we've not settled issues as of today, correct?
Well, I think it's more of an explanation, and we'll do some simulations and share that so that we then all come together, have a press conference, and know that we are on to something that we are going to keep.
But there was, will they stand? Will you continue charging it? Some had called for it to be suspended until all the other issues are dealt with.
I think we are far from that. And I'm sure that by the time we finish up our meetings on Monday or so, we should be at the common level. This is good for the country. It eliminates potential tax evasion. It's very complex to calculate input and output taxes and then determine what to charge. I think this makes things a lot clearer, more transparent, and everybody will be paying their part of building this economy. Thank you very much. The meeting has worked out very well. I'm pretty pleased with it, and I'd like to thank the hierarchy in Parliament for calling this meeting together. Thank you.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta there. Well, those who petitioned the committee over the issue are not happy with the outcome of that meeting. Samuel Leto Agri is with the Food and Beverage Producers Association.
Some facts has been laid bare for us to know exactly the implications, how it's going to be.
So your concerns have been resolved?
It hasn't been resolved. Concerns has not been resolved. It has now taken a different dimension. What the Finance Committee seek to do was to listen to both sides and then decide on what to do. And along the line, it was pointed out that, look, there is an illegality in the application of what we are doing. So therefore, you need to go back and then look at it again. But they will not listen. They still want to go ahead and implement it. When the finance minister was talking, he made it clear that they needed that money so bad that they needed to raise revenue. So if you tell me that you are cutting down 17.5% and giving me a simple 3%, what revenue is it going to be for you?
Okay, so for you, this is not a move to ease the business sector. It's rather tightening the noose around your neck, you think?
It's a way of taking more money from the business community. It's simple fact. And who is going to pay for that? It's you, the consumer. That is why we are saying that, look, the point where you are implementing the 3% will not augur well for the market. If you go down to the end, because the original law tells you that, look, the application of the 17.5% or the 3% should be at the end of the retail.
Okay, and so for you, importers and exporters as well as wholesalers shouldn't be part of it. Will doing that alone satisfy you?
If they go back to the original basics, it solves the problem. Because otherwise, what it means is that you will be bringing down an overflow of cost additions from the top down to the last retailer. And this is what we are saying, that it's not good, it's not in the interest of anyone.
How did the finance minister respond to that directly when you raised it in the meeting, that particular concern?
He said, these are his words, we need the money, and therefore we need to raise that tax so that we can get the money to develop. And he's not going to watch people sitting there without paying their taxes and all that. Because you see, at the point where you are doing that, what it means is that in between the line, jobs could be lost. It's possible that jobs could be lost. And actually, it's an emphatic statement that I'm making. Okay. So you are not going to have the effect tomorrow or overnight. But over a span period, you will see that this is really a bad law.
My final question will be, what next for you in the light of all these concerns?
Well, if they say they want to continue what they want to do, we have no choice than to pass on the cost to the consumer. But let me also add that I'm really disappointed the attitude of our partners, the GUTA, because they are supposed to be a trade union who will seek the interests of the ordinary trader. But then the way they behave today and the kind of publication that is going out there suggests a different thing. I don't know whether they are in bed with the government, because we are supposed to remain neutral and tell government what is wrong and what is right. But the way they are going, they are pushing that the things should come.
Because they think it will serve their interest.
Most of them that are pushing that it should come, we are not saying it shouldn't come, but at the level where it's going to be implemented, that is where we have the case. So if we are saying that it should come because some Lebanese man or Syrian man sitting somewhere is importing goods and therefore they think he doesn't pay taxes, it is absolutely wrong. When you go down there, everybody has a very good accounting system that surpasses every market trader. You understand? Because when they import the goods and you're asking that it should come, the 3% will be applied, and then you see the effect that comes to you. Most of them who are talking, they import their own things, and therefore when they bring it like they are saying, they put it in their own shop and then also pass it on. But go down to the market and ask yourself, how many people are really truly VAT registered?
And that is Samuel Etu Agri there, speaking for the Food and Beverages Association. Well, let's go live to Parliament now with Joseph Opoku Gakpo is standing by. Hello, Gakpo.
Hello, Gifty.
Yeah, very well. What more do we know? Is this a dead issue? Would you call it that?
Well, not yet. And so this was a meeting called at the level of the Finance Committee by the committee chairman, Dr. Makasibe Yaboa, after we are told a petition came to them from the Association of Ghana Industries and also a number of other agencies. It was actually referred to the committee by the Speaker, and today the committee met with the Finance Minister himself and all the other stakeholders. In terms of what the way forward looks like, I've been speaking to Dr. Makasibe Yaboa on that. He tells me that the plan is that they will put together a report based on what they heard at today's committee session, today's committee sitting, and then that report will be taken to the floor of Parliament itself, and then a final decision or pronouncement would be made on it. But beyond those that you've heard from, including the Food and Beverage Manufacturers Association, who are not satisfied with the outcome of this particular meeting. Soon after the meeting, the minority in Parliament, led by its spokesperson on finance, Kesela Toforsen, addressed a media briefing. Himself and other finance committee members on the minority side, they participated in this particular meeting, and we would know that they voiced their opposition to the implementation of the flat scheme rate based on a number of issues earlier. They are standing their grounds. Looks like themselves were not exactly satisfied with how the meeting turned out. But let's speak quickly to Kesela Toforsen. He's the minority spokesperson on finance. Honorable, thanks very much for joining us. Let's begin on the notes of the meeting itself. Were the issues resolved as was expected to have been the case?
It ended inconclusive. We pointed out certain illegality to the minister. The ministry held their position. They felt that they have to implement it. But in the end, the minister said he's going to look at the illegality things that I raised. And let me take you into what we were talking about. Soon after the passage of Act 948, the Ghana Revenue Authority, working with the Ministry of Finance, issued a practice note. And in the practice note, they made certain pronouncement.
And the practice notes is the document at the level of the Ghana Revenue Authority.
At the level of Ghana Revenue Authority, communicating policy to their staff for implementation. At the practice note, they said that all importers of finished goods are classed as wholesalers and retailers, per the definition provided in the Ghana Revenue Authority practice note, because essentially they actually break bulk. They went further to say that manufacturing entities, when also import, are classed as wholesalers in that sense. And further said that wholesalers and retailers to whom the VAT flat rate scheme apply cannot deduct input tax before 17.5% input tax paid becomes part of their landed cost. And this is where I said that it's illegal.
Okay, so the practice note, yes, as far as you are concerned, is not in sync with the law that was passed by Parliament.
If you look at the Value Added Tax Act 2013, Act 870, and let me refer you to Section 48. Section 48 is clear. It talks about deductible input tax. And it said that subject to Section 49, at the end of tax period provided for in this act or prescribed by the regulation, a taxable person may deduct the following from the output tax due from the period. It said that A, tax on goods and services purchased in the country and goods imported by that person and used wholly, exclusively, and necessary in the course of taxable activity of that person, subject to the conditions that 1, the supply is a taxable supply. 2, in respect of purchases made in Ghana, the taxable person is in possession of a tax invoice issued under this act. And II, in respect of import or removable of goods from a bonded warehouse, the taxable person is in possession of relevant customs entries indicating that the tax was paid. Okay. So under this, you are allowed to deduct input tax. What this practice note is trying to do is that it's not allowing them to deduct input tax. It's illegal. And if you look at Section 53 and Section 34, it explains who an importer is. All of a sudden, the GRA is defining an importer to include a wholesaler. That is illegal. Okay. So what we are saying is that they should stop perpetuating the illegality with impunity and revert to the implementation of the actual value-added tax at 870.
And you draw the finance minister's attention to this, and he indicated that they are really going to look at it.
Yeah, they were surprised. They didn't know, and it looks as if they've not done extensive consultation. It's policy, but if you have a policy to increase a VAT rate or deny an importer or a wholesaler from getting an input VAT credit, you don't go through the back door. Okay. You don't go through the back door. That is a backdoor approach of imposing a tax on ordinary Ghanaians.
Okay, so if I get it clearly, your main concern has to do with this flat VAT rate scheme being applied to importers and exporters being the illegal aspect of it. Apart from that, one that is fixed, then would they receive the support of you, the minority?
What we are saying is based on 3 grounds. 1, it's illegal as it stands. 2, morally, it's not in sync with the manifesto promise. There's a party that came in promising that they are going to move away from taxation to production. They've said that they are not going to impose taxes, and this tax is nuisance, and they are going to remove it. Today, we are hearing from them that they intend to impose an additional tax on the ordinary Ghanaian. This is an imposition of tax. So that one, we disagree with them. And finally, let us also understand that global best practices, nobody, no country, ever extend tax concessions of flat rate from a retailer to a wholesaler. It is not for nothing. The reason is that if your research has proven that you can use flat rate for a retailer, but you cannot use flat rate for a wholesaler because you have different components of wholesalers. Some of them, they have higher input tax, and some of them, they have very low input tax. And for that matter, using flat rate may result in an imposition of tax or reduction of taxes. So what government is trying to do here is imposing taxes on ordinary Ghanaian through the back door. So don't be surprised, my brother, that when you go out tomorrow to buy something, because since they've started implementation, you go out there to buy milk, the price of milk today may jump from maybe 1 cedi to 2 cedi. Don't be surprised, because the price of goods and services will go up.
Just the final thing. So you, the minority, you point to this illegality, the finance minister is standing his grounds. What other options are available for you? You shouldn't, as Parliament, be allowing an illegality to perpetuate.
Obviously, no. I think we've made that point clearly. Today at the committee meeting, we made a point to the Minister of Finance. Let's first of all allow him to come back. We are going to the floor and we'll make that point strongly. And I'm sure Parliament will actually come out with a resolution compelling them to implement the law in full and not to perpetuate illegality. At that point, failure to do it will mean we are going to court.
Okay, asking that the court stop the minister to do what exactly?
Compel them to make sure they respect the spirit of Act 870.
We look forward to how that will turn out. Many thanks for speaking to us. Kisela Tofosen is the minority spokesperson on finance, with the indication of those threats, if I could call them so, directed at the level of the finance minister. Back to you, Gifty.
Well, Gakpo, just before you go quickly, we know what the minority's position are. It looks like entrenched positions here, but we also know that the Food and Beverages Association are not really happy with the position of GUTA. What is GUTA's own reaction to the meeting?
In the GUTA case, well, this meeting today was triggered by a petition from the Association of Ghana Industries and also the Importers and Exporters Association, and they had indicated that they were concerned about this issue of the flat VAT rate. But today, just before the committee sitting, we got the indication that a fresh petition had been brought to the committee from the Ghana Union of Traders Association, and the point they make is that they think that the flat rate scheme is a good move. They are backing it fully. They think that government can count on their support, and they are pushing for it to be implemented fully. Well, the AGI and the Food and Beverage Importers Association are only drawing attention to the fact that they think that GUTA is being unfair to them to a certain extent, because they have concerns with the implementation, which they want addressed to a very large extent. But even at the level of the committee, when the meeting went on, GUTA, as you indicated, took its own position on that. The Food and Beverages Association of Ghana Industries also took a different position, which again appears to be a very worrying sign, looking at the fact that industry is divided in terms of how they should approach this particular issue. But we'll see what the recommendation from the committee will be in terms of the report that they will submit to Parliament generally, pertaining to the positions of these two different groups.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo there, speaking with the minority spokesperson on finance, Kisela Tofosen.